All right, welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. I'm Matt Pravratsky alongside my brother Mark, and we are here with a big-time center back, Anna Spaine from St. Cloud State. Anna, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Anna, we got your signature right on this jersey. I think yours is right
Oh,
there. We got the
No
Husky kid
way.
up. We're going full NSIC. We're going full Husky this morning. So you all just came back from sort of one of the big trips in the NSIC. You go out to the Dakotas. You play at Minot, at Mary, a couple of really tough games and on the road, just quality opponents, and also on a big trip. What's it feel like to come back from that big trip like that? Those nice big bus rides.
Yeah, it's funny because like you go to school all week and then you got a weekend and the trips are fun. Like you're with the team and you're on the bus and we're playing games. I mean, it's like a really fun experience, but then you come home and you're like, oh my God, like I have to start my week again.
Yeah.
So it just makes for like long weekends, but I don't know. It's like, I think it's like key for team bonding because we're all in the hotel together. We're doing homework together. We all go like walk to get ice cream after dinner. So it's an experience, but it's a little exhausting. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's so fun.
Well, we had last year, Mark had Katie Anderson from Concordia on, and she let us into a new trend that I think we were behind on, which is soccer players buying large dog beds for cars and using them in the soccer bus. And
I didn't understand it. It threw me.
I was watching the show and I knew what Katie was saying, but something about the way she was saying it was confusing Mark. And so it was really funny to see the exchange. I've since seen teams even throw it in like their Insta stories, but here's the real hard-hitting question, Anna. Does anyone on the St. Cloud State bus chill in a dog bed in the bus?
I don't know if I should be calling these people out, but
yeah,
probably every other seat.
Oh, okay.
It's like a hammock, and you
So that would have helped me. See, that was great. Yeah, you just said right away it was like a hammock.
I should probably get one because I just sleep like the entire time.
Right.
People have so many embarrassing pictures of me, but like I always like roll off, my head's like slipping.
Yeah.
But in this hammock thing, you're just like in a little nest, like all your pillows and blankets are in there. I need to invest in one.
If you were going to be sleeping, it definitely could be the move.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No. People can't post those though. When they take the pictures, that's just to share with teammates, right? They can't post those on main. They can't story those.
Is that in the group chat? Where do these live?
I don't know. I mean, I think we can start a trend.
Don't post the pic. Just use them.
We should post them.
Okay.
We should
get everyone in on it. It should be.
Send them to Equal Time then, and we'll make a thread about it.
Yeah.
Listen, Anna. If you're saying we need to post it, you can lead by example. You can You can go full villain and just post it.
Let's do it. Get them from the pet store, and then you can put the St. Cloud logo on it.
There we go. We go.
NIL opportunity, by the way. Players. Get a deal.
I'm claiming that. I'm gonna put dibs on that.
This is good. Let's go find like somehow if there's a local pet store in St. Cloud, let's go find it. Or down in Des Moines. We have options.
Yeah, we do.
Well, Anna, let's jump in. You come in last year, come in as a center back, start every game as a freshman at center back, which is just absolutely nutso. I'm really curious, what was your mindset going into camp? Because obviously, players want to play. Every freshman comes in hoping they're going to be able to play, but starting at center back really is kind of a next level, like stressful, high pressure situation. And just, it takes a lot to learn the game, all that stuff. Did you come in prepared for if you maybe had to learn and grow mostly that first year? Or did you come in, are you someone with the mindset of like, I'm a starter, I've always started? Like, what was your mindset going into that first camp?
Yeah. So in high school, I feel like I played every game there. I was pretty used to kind of having that like starting leadership role. But I just had heard a lot of stories that like, you go into college and it's a whole new environment. So I knew I was prepared and I was excited, but I wasn't like really expecting anything like to play. I just wanted to be there so that I could work up to that point. So honestly, like hearing that first day that I was starting, I was like, okay, here we go. Like I felt ready. But I just kind of gave it my all at camp. I just felt like at that point I didn't have anything to lose. But the support of like my coaches was amazing. Like feeling like they just fully supported me and trusted me to be in such a like key role. But the scariest thing I think was like earning the trust of my other teamates, to be in such an important role. And as a freshman, and they don't really know me that well. And at the time, like a fifth year senior had the spot. So I felt like I really had to like earn my place and not only prove to my coaches, but prove to them that I deserve to be there. But by the second game, everyone just was in full support, and I just felt like it allowed me to play the way I wanted to play, and I could play free. So yeah, it was an awesome and exciting experience, but nothing that I really expected.
Did it help having you have a high school teammate, Chloe Olsen, on the team, right? Like,
no,
a rival.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Zoe Fanter and Grace Olsen both came from Valley with me. And so it was fun to play with them. And then there's a girl named Katie Compton who's from Ankeny. So they've been recruiting a lot out of Iowa, but I played with and against like a lot of people that I play with now. So
yeah.
But I did play with Chloe Olsen at club. That's funny you mentioned her. She goes to Iowa now, I think. Yeah.
No, look, listen, Mark's always creating high school rivalry flubs on here. He's doing all this stuff where the Mankato stuff. We get in trouble so much from this.
He's an instigator.
Exactly. He's just like a classic, he's trying to be equal times edgy host. He's trying to like do his like well, I mean,
whatever.
We're both incredibly boring. There's nothing edgy about anything we do. So Anna, last year, for Equal Time folks and St. Cloud folks, obviously everyone knows this, but last year ends up as such a cool Cinderella story for you guys. You take the regular season championship. You get to host, the late rounds of the NSIC tournament. You fall to Bemidji in the conference tournament, which is, nothing to be embarrassed about. They're really tournament tested. You end up playing them in the NCAAs. They come out on top again. But for you, especially as a young player, but even as a group who hadn't been that late stage postseason together, how valuable was that tournament experience to help you get sort of a real sense, like in your bones of, oh, this is the pressure of like knockout soccer, both in that conference tournament and in the NCAAs?
Yeah, I think last season we were really like kind of the underdogs. There wasn't a whole lot of pressure at that point because we honestly had nothing to lose. So we just kind of came in it like, let's go win some games. And I think we slowly started to like make a name for ourselves. And we were all sitting in this room that I'm in actually right now when we got the bid to go to the tournament. And I remember we were all just like, oh my goodness, like this is real. And then we could kind of feel that pressure kind of kick in, but it was still new. And we got to fly there and being on a plane with all of your teammates was so fun. But that experience was just so like surreal, like the banners of the NCAA everywhere and a big crowd. So it felt, it's inspiring, especially like as a freshman, because then you're like, we got to get this every single year, it kind of sets the tone. And then like incoming players see that you're there and that you made it. And then it kind of puts that pressure on them to like, okay, I got to be ready when I come.
This is the expectation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I think
and for
set
you,
the standard for sure.
Right. Well, and especially for you as a freshman, you're like, well, I don't want it to go downhill from here. And I'm curious too, did you physically, because I mean, Mark and I have never played at any serious level. Even in high school, when you get into a bigger game, you feel a little extra pressure, but this is like such a big jump you're talking about of like the literal national tournament, in D2. Do you remember, did it really actually physically feel different? Like, do you remember the stress and the pressure feeling like, oh, okay, it's not that you're like afraid or whatever, but it's it does feel a little different. Now I know what it feels like. But like, was there sort of a difference in the pressure for you individually? Like, oh, this is what it feels like to be at the next level.
I'm going to be honest. No. It felt like another game. Like, yes, there was like something on the line, but I just had so much like trust in our process and my teammates that it just felt like, okay, here we are. Like, let's do this thing. Like I don't know. It just felt like another thing. And I tried not to let that pressure get to my head. But I mean, it was more so like, okay, it's Bemidji. It wasn't like, oh, this is the NCAA tournament. It was like, can we beat this team?
Well, because you had already lost to them. Yeah, that's
like that was the third time we lost to them. So
that's no. Well, and also maybe a bit of it making it the first time is the pressure's a little off because it's all kind of gravy. It's like we've already accomplished something to be, there's a bit of you thinking that, and we want to win too. But then, so that pressure might feel different this year if you make it, because it's because you're like, you know what, we know we can do it. We expect to do more. It's so, maybe this year will be the difference. But it makes sense to me because well, and also maybe you're just composed. We don't know. Maybe
just nonchalant.
Well, because I am curious if the flip side is also true, where like once last year happens, you come in this fall since you've already won that regular season trophy, not that you don't want to win it again, but like now that you've gone through a season, you know you can compete at this level. You sort of have leveled up as a team. Like, does the mindset shift in the regular season in terms of, yes, every game matters. Yes, we want to win every game, obviously. But is there a little less pressure on sort of the regular season part, knowing that you all are sort of not necessarily a lock, but a sort of a for sure postseason team now? Does it make the regular season feel any different this year compared to last year, now that you know, hey, we might not be playing through November, 5th, we might actually be playing through like the national tournament in D2 goes into like December. So do you have to sort of pace yourself in a different way, knowing like we might actually be playing into like snow, baby? Like this might be like winter soccer.
Yeah. I think our team mindset is more like focused on the now. So like even knowing that we like have the opportunity to make it so far, like every game still does matter so much. And I mean, we've tied the last 5 games, but that I don't think that goes to show like what we're trying to do this year. Like we want to win every single game, and we got rings earlier this semester because we won the conference, and it wasn't like, oh, got it, don't need it anymore. Like now I need that every year. So I think we're just focused day by day, game by game. Like we want to win everything, no matter how far we go. Like we don't want to win the national tournament and then go back and look and say like, okay, well, our season didn't go very well. You know what I mean? Like I think we want to make the most of it now, so that it matters in the end. Yeah.
Well, and you talk about those ties, those consecutive ties. How do you keep that mindset of, obviously points matter, and like those, the standings in the NSIC are absolutely nuts. And then also just to get those points and get those results. But how do you deal with that sort of in terms of your mindset of, these are good teams, we are playing good teams, like we have to respect them. A tie is not like terrible, but obviously wanting to win. How do you deal with sort of that many consecutive draws in a row as a group, in terms of, okay, we know we're doing well, but how can we do even better, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think what's really good about our team is everyone's super honest. So obviously this hasn't been easy. Like I've admitted to my team actually over the weekend that I've been having struggles with this. Like we have every opportunity to win these games and we're not. So it's a little stressful, but the thing that's good about our team is everyone like just admits, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need more help with this. What can I do here? Like, I think I had a couple turnovers in the last game because I like drove the ball up the field and I couldn't connect. And instead of like putting blame on me, my teammates are like, what can I do for you? Where do I need to move? So we just have such a growth mindset that like, while these may seem like setbacks, like I just have no doubt that we're just going to flourish from it. Like there's never any blame. It's just like, okay, how can we grow? But it's not easy because of last year. Like we didn't really go through this kind of like rut spot, but I don't know. I don't have any doubt that we're just going to grow from it and learn from it. So,
yeah. Well, I just want to like take a minute to just like call out what you just mentioned. The idea that like folks are being really honest and vulnerable, like in a sports space, and even with the teams we cover. I mean, it's not that every team I cover has some like bad vibe or some negative vibe, but like it's not, it takes it, you have to be intentional to create a culture like that, and like leaders have to show vulnerability and honesty so that other people know that they can also share that. And then so that people aren't tearing each other down. Like it takes a lot to try and build a culture like that. And so just naming that, because we talk to a lot of players who like, college soccer is hard. Like being a college soccer player is really hard. And there's a lot of mental and emotional pressure. And so having any of those supportive systems is like really huge, because like we want you all to thrive. Like we want the teams to thrive, but creating a culture like that really, really matters for sure.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it for sure. And it makes the hard part, like the mental part about playing soccer and being an athlete just so much easier, because you just feel like you're a part of a family. And that's like one of the reasons I committed here, is because I felt like it was a home away from home, and that's still how it feels now. So
yeah. Well, yeah, talk about that a little bit. So the Des Moines area is sort of a pipeline to Minnesota in a bunch of different ways. Like the Gophers have always had the random Ankeny kids. The St. Thomas has, Des Moines area people. The NSIC,
the Iowa Wild, Matt.
Sure, yeah. The NSIC is like absolutely drunk on Des Moines area kids. Like there's just so many. So when you were looking, were sort of Minnesota programs all up in your business? Was it who were you looking at, and how did St. Cloud get on your radar?
I was pretty late to the recruiting process. I think COVID kind of set me back, and I was at a club that like didn't really support and like help me look for colleges, I guess. So I was kind of naive in the process. But when I did move eventually, but I had committed by then, which is irrelevant. But Jade actually just like reached out to me, and I think she called me like every week. So
Nice.
she'd be like, "So, do you have any more questions? When are you committing?" And I was like, just give me a minute. Like, I don't know why I
Right.
was so hesitant, but
Well, you
I
were
think
you were trying to get that offer up, baby. You were like, listen,
exactly. Like,
you were
wait,
like, hey, I'm kind of like, I might be, but
Oh
also
yeah.
you were like, I don't know. I mean, Mankato just reached out. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
Like, I'm just so
no.
busy. It's like Bemidji. Actually, you know what? I think that's Jim on the phone from Bemidji. One sec. I actually got to go.
Yeah, I actually didn't talk to any other colleges in like in the
Yeah.
NSIC.
Yeah.
I went to an ID camp at Mankato, which
Yep.
now
Yeah.
they're enemies now. But
What were
and I looked at Drake in Iowa a little
Right.
bit. But
I was wondering what were the other places that you at least like, looked at. Obviously down in Iowa, there's tons and tons of programs down there, and
yeah,
even like several D1s that I'm sure you could have played at.
yeah. So Drake, and then I also looked at SDSU. But I remember driving to the campus, and it was corn, 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 and then there it was. And I was like, where am I going to get my nails done here? Like so that.
Nails done. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's great.
Where do you go and give a shout out? Where in St. Cloud? And by the way, to the business that is referenced here, if you do go to one in St. Cloud, this is an opportunity to support an athlete
This is gold.
who's going to become a leader out of the St. Cloud community. And so this is an NIL opportunity.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Where do you get your nails done up there?
Shout out Kim's Nails.
Kim's Nails, baby. This
They're
is great.
And you
And
better
cheap.
believe I see a lot of nail work in this part, and I sweep them up when I clean the day after a drag.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
gross.
well, I
Well,
mean,
it's
look, this is
It's a show.
They work. They work.
It's a
They're
show.
gonna
There's a
break
lot
a
of
nail. They're
yeah.
gonna dance. Yeah.
A lot of activity. So what about St. Cloud made it a good fit for you? Other than like being actively recruited and being wanted and all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
what about St. Cloud felt right to you as a fit?
On my visit, I got to like tour with one of the professors in my department, and
Oh.
in high school, I was like really close with a lot of my professors.
Yeah.
So like getting here and having a professor like take me around, and he was just like smiling the whole time. Like he was so excited, and like all the equipment and stuff that we had was just so cool. So it just felt like immediately I had a connection with school and like the advisor that I would have. And then the coaches were just like, they would ask me like about my family every week, and they cared about like what was going on outside of like, okay, how's the soccer season going? So it just felt like I was talking to like some of my friends. And then when I got to walk around with some of the players on the team, it just felt like we connected really easily. Like we kind of skipped over the like small talk, and it was just like,
Yeah.
we want you here, and this is what it's going to be like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And for you coming from like West Des Moines, and obviously St. Cloud, you felt at least enough like a city that you knew you'd be able to find a nail spot. But
Yeah.
Like when you
Glad you did. Yeah.
when you look at like for you to St. Cloud, like Mark and I grew up in a tiny town and went to college in another tiny town in Morris. Shout out, go Cougars. But like, so for us, anything would have felt like at least, nothing would feel small to us because nothing could be smaller than what we
Right.
grew up in. But for you coming from like the West Des Moines area, did St. Cloud, like, it obviously was big enough, but what was like the vibe, aside from less corn than Southwest Minnesota and Iowa?
I think the nice thing for me is that it's like not that far away from home either.
Yeah.
But I knew I kind of wanted to get out of Iowa because I want to go to dental school in Iowa.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just get out of here for a little bit. And it just kind of seemed the most similar to that like Iowa vibe too.
Yeah.
And my family comes up like every other weekend for our home games. So
Yeah.
it just feels like a home away from home. And there's like a lot to do around here. It's pretty.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good choice.
Nice.
Wait, you knew in high school before you went to undergrad that you wanted to go to dental school. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
This is
Okay.
this
Well,
is a high achiever.
this is why Matt and I are asking questions of these people rather than doing it. Yeah, that's
We
great.
need to learn. We're trying to learn from Anna right now.
And
We're
you're still, and after starting doing kind of the pre-med type track, still feeling going to be a dentist.
Yep.
Right
This
on.
That's
is,
the
you know
goal.
what? we're gonna be really supportive, helpful fake soccer reporters. We're gonna connect you to Christelle Yewa. We're gonna connect you to a badass soccer playing dentist herself. Christelle,
Yeah.
Christelle, we know you're watching. Obviously,
Yeah.
you watch and listen to every single show.
It's not because we need dental work, but it's for pure.
It's not because of that, but
Yeah.
for sure. Well,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're selflessly connecting you to a dentist, and then if you want to kick it back to us, you can kick it back to us.
Heck yeah.
So what? Back to the soccer a little bit. One kind of thing. This is true of any conference, but in particular, I think we've seen it in the NSIC, and we've tried to carry this nuance into how we rate standings mid-season.
Mhm.
Schedules really tend to be really, really imbalanced. So you all have played what I would sort of generally call most of your tougher games on paper already. Some other teams like Bemidji actually has a ton of their tough games remaining, blah blah blah. So the standings in the mid-season of the NSIC are always sort of a trick. They're sort of tricking you into thinking what the playoff picture might be, and the standings really shift as those final games happen. So when you have sort of an end of the season where maybe on paper these are on paper wins, and obviously everyone knows in the NSIC that means nothing, but how do you take advantage of that in terms of, we've done a bunch of our big trips, we've done a bunch of our tough games against a Bemidji, a Mankato, whatever. How do you take that to your advantage in terms of, okay, we know we still have to take game by game, but we've done a lot of our work. We've done some heavy lifting this fall.
I think we've gotten a lot of results so far that we're pretty proud of, but a lot of that has been kind of focused on film watching and kind of catering to beat these other teams based on how they play.
Yeah.
But I think there's almost a shift this week that I can kind of feel, where it's more focusing on ourselves and our process, so that when we do see these teams again, we're so solid in who we are. So it's kind of it's almost a little lift of pressure. Not that these games don't matter, but it's just kind of a different mindset of okay, now we got to lock in, finish this season, and then become our best selves before we see them again.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. When you're playing those top opponents, you maybe do have to do that deep scout of okay, they always work this type of passing style, they always do this, versus having a chance to focus on yourselves. And it's no disrespect to either version, it's just that shift is such a good way to put it. And for you personally, you really this whole fall have had a pretty big adjustment to make in your position too. So there's a new center back partner for you, Izzy Hallinan. You two have been mainstays back there, just minutes monsters at the center back, and then also a new keeper. So even that whole defensive triangle at the back, so Mariel Oram, who's been crushing it, has a monster save percentage back there for you. You've had some games to sort of work with this new group back there, but you have this whole first year under your belt, you feel experienced, but then there's this newness of sort of these new partners in crime in the back there. What's that sort of dynamic like for you in terms of, I do have a whole season under my belt, I did play, but also there's all this adjusting to do to settle into the best version of ourselves in this new group?
Yeah, for sure. Mo wasn't a huge surprise or difference for me. She I got to play with her all last year. She's been behind me a lot in practice, and I have full trust in her. There was nothing there were no doubts. When Jaylee Strickland went out with an injury, it's obviously very disappointing, but it's okay, here Mo is, and she played with us the majority in the spring, so playing with her was no big adjustment at all. And her and Jaylee play pretty similar to each other. So she was, I trust her back there. I'm not worried when she's in there. But with Izzy, it was a big deal, I feel because no one was expecting Ree to get hurt. And that was obviously shocking. But it's kind of helpful that I kind of know what Izzy is going through. I was in the same position as her just a year ago.
Right.
But I honestly, she's a player that I feel I've been playing with my entire life. The chemistry that we have, I feel I don't know, it just feels I already played with her, and this is nothing new. And it also helps that she's such an amazing person, on and off the field. So her and I have gotten really close, actually, and I think that just helps us on the field. We communicate really well. It's funny because I'll be, thinking something, and then she'll just, say it. And I'm okay. We just get each other. So it's been awesome. And it's, it's an adjustment, but I feel it's made us stronger. And no, I wouldn't trade it for the world. They're both awesome.
You and Izzy are what people think twins are. That's great.
Yeah.
You guys know each other's thoughts. That's great.
Yeah.
By the way, I think, and by the way, I'm going to give an apology to Grace Olson, like called
we go.
Chloe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a Chloe Olsen that look. There's a lot of.
She's a Minnesotan. She's the keeper over at Marquette. Listen,
there's a lot of names. I track a lot of players, but I wanted to see that so I could say sorry to Grace. We'll have fun in the future years.
Grace put Mark on the bulletin board. A personal bulletin board moment for Grace Olsen.
Love to be bulletin board material. I would love to be bulletin board material again. Maybe once more. But no. Talk about, we do tons of summer league coverage. So, and it's expanding crazy the way we have, like you have Granite City in St. Cloud, we have WPSL teams, we have W League teams. What do you typically do in the summers? Like what did you do last summer? That was your first like post-college summer. Was it just needing a break to train on your own? Or is it, I mean, honestly, and people do a lot of academic focused work too. You might get an internship or something. So, but in your mindset, as you look forward to in the future years, because there are players who use these teams and kind of become, you know, a prospect at another level. But I wonder, how do you think about those opportunities? What do you think about your summer training and like joining teams like that?
Yeah, academically, after experiencing like freshman load of college, I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, leave that behind. So I really did just kind of, yeah. And then I get home and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start lifting. And my dad's like, no, you're taking 2 weeks off. Like you're done. Oh, and so I did. But then I play with like a team that we kind of set up, and it's like the Drake League. And we just go play like every Monday night, 7v7, which is always fun. So that's like a good way to like stay in it. Because I feel like it's hard to be in shape for soccer without playing soccer. Yeah. But our trainer, who's awesome, he sends us like things to do every day. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of like conditioning and lifting, but outside of like playing with summer teams, I really haven't looked into that. Yeah. But I think as like I get more into internships and stuff, especially if I get one in St. Cloud. Yeah. Ellie Primoreno played with a team over the summer, and that just looked so fun. So I think I'm gonna have to talk to her and look into doing that, especially if I end up staying here over the summer. So, but that's something I'm looking into, but not something I've done yet.
Wait, so who else plays in these Drake games? Because I know for a fact there's like some former NSIC stars who live down in Des Moines. Like we see the Cade sisters down there. We see Sarah Went down there. Mm-hmm. Who else is playing in these Drake games? Drop some names for us.
I mean, I only know the people who like play with me, but Grace Olsen does. Okay. Zoe Fanter does. Katie Compton. Lots of the Drake players do. But other than that, like
Nice. Yeah.
just gotta show up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, you played, I know you played at least a little bit of basketball in high school, right? And yes. we love talking about the alternate sports. It's kind of fun. Yeah. I think I might have been better at basketball than soccer, and soccer I actually played.
The stakes couldn't possibly be lower in that.
It's still middle. It doesn't matter. But the point is, we love asking about this because you get to kind of imagine your glory days. It can all be theoretical. But so if you had gone to college to play another sport, I'm guessing it might have been basketball. But I wonder if for your St. Cloud teammates, one, have you ever played with them? But two, pick a starting five of the St. Cloud State to play basketball with. And if you haven't played, I guess it's more interesting, but I'm curious. Right. Have you ever done it as like, do you guys ever do alternate sport training like for fun or like?
Other than like being in the pool a couple times, we really don't. But Jaylee and I last year did go and like shoot around, and we would play each other 1v1. I did beat her, Jaylee Strickland, and I would just like to put that on the record. I beat her 3 times, I think. But I think if I had to make a starting five, it would be Jaylee. Kristen Schuster, because she's really tall. Okay. Zoe Fanter, that girl is athletic. Mm-hmm. Katie Compton, because I could just laugh at her and it would be funny. And then,
shots fired.
Who else? Maybe Brooke Quam.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
She has she just has that passing gene probably.
Yeah. She'd get all the assists.
By the way, to the St. Cloud coaches, Anna's making her own bulletin board material with teammates right now. I love it. Throw it up, teammates. Shots fired for when you throw up a 3-on-3 basketball tournament and make Anna work.
Also, anyone who's insulted, message us right now and we'll just throw it on the screen. We'll just like.
Yeah.
Well, Anna said it. Just put it on, post it up. But no, something we saw in your bio just online is, you like to kayak, like other things outdoors too. But I wonder, so like you're from Iowa, so I'm wondering, are you liking kayaking for like do you like finding the slow and chill situation, or is it like you've gone out and found like whitewater? What do you prefer? Where's your favorite place to kayak?
I don't kayak at all.
Okay.
This was wrong. The
This is-
website.
Also, Mark probably looked at like a different place. He's like, no. This is,
I wish, but I don't do that at all.
Then talk to us about your actual hobbies while I Google this to see if.
Okay.
We've heard the website. At least I'm so curious when these questions even get asked, but it does list that you like biking.
That's a better question.
Do you? And
Okay,
again, maybe that's made up. I'm not sure. But do you? Are there like biking trails or stuff you like to do outdoors or stuff like that?
I think a lot of our teammates go on walks just to kind of shake out the legs. But we have like beautiful trails kind of behind our stadium, and they have like little swinging chairs along the river. So a lot of that, and then we like baking. My roommates and I. There's always brownies somewhere on our counter. I've gotten into reading lately. I've always been bad about it because I feel like if I'm reading, like, shouldn't I just be doing homework? But it's kind of winded me down at night, so I'm getting into that too, slowly but surely.
I will say, St. Cloud State Athletics. It's listed on your bio, so that was one of my. It wasn't one of my many clubs, but that could be anyone writing that.
Well, we were ready to believe it, especially because like Des Moines is a river town. Your soccer stadium, for those who haven't been there, is like right on the Mississippi. So I was ready to believe it as well. So actually, you know what this means? I think this means you need to get into.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. No, we're
manifesting.
We're the secreting this. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have my parents bring me up a kayak.
Yeah. I think there are some sitting by the stadium by the river. You could just grab those.
Just take one and go.
I always love to ask Anna because you don't get every team away every year. Now you're getting into where you'll have gone to more of the teams. Some of them are long bus trips. Some of them are just a cooler place to play. What's your favorite place to play and least favorite place to play? Because I'm guessing like maybe there's bad memories Bemidji, but maybe you also want to go beat them there. I don't know. But like, what are the ends of that spectrum for you this year?
Okay, this is going to sound awful and so ironic, but Mankato is my favorite field to play at.
Yeah. To play on
their grass. Yeah. I think I played the best soccer of my life last year when we played there. And I was like mad that they were coming to us this year. I was like, no, I want to go play there.
That's funny. It is a really nice field.
It is so nice.
And you don't get a lot of grass. It's a lot of turf.
Yeah, and it was like good grass.
Right.
I could talk about that field all day.
Yeah,
but I think the
pitch they call it, right? Do they call it the pitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The worst field was probably Moorhead. So we're lucky that they get to come to us. It was just, I remember, I think it had just rained and it was grassy, but also kind of muddy.
Yeah.
And it just made for like a scrappy game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it was, and maybe the weather was a part of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it's soggy, because we saw when we were doing a whip around last week, we saw the field and I was like, oh yeah, pretty, like it looked like a pretty nice grass field, but you're right. It like on the day, well, the really rainy days are the times when you like turf or like when it's,
certain teams also use that to their advantage. If you're a team like Moorhead who wants to slog it out, like, like we used to play, like Bemidji, I feel like would keep their grass, their real grass, like so 3 inches long. And you'd be like, why? But, you can choose to do that if you want to slow stuff down. But interesting. Well, speaking of Moorhead, you host Moorhead this Friday, 6 p.m. So maybe getting out of that tie run, and then you have Northern also on Sunday. Tough game. That's one of your few teams who are in playoff contention that are left in the standings, like Matt and I mentioned. And then next weekend you get Southwest Minnesota and Sioux Falls. So how many points from the next 4 games, Anna?
All the ones possible. 12.
There we go. Look at that. There we go. He was so ready for that. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining in. It was awesome to get a little more NSIC insight. Glad to talk about Iowa. And we'll be paying attention, and playoffs are coming soon. So I'm sure we'll be watching the Huskies do something.
So excited. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome.
Thank you. All right. Let's move into it, Matt.
All right, let's do it. Oh, we both did it.
We both were being overachievers. Sorry about that, Anna. Made it a little bit of a bullet. Yeah, boomerang.
All right, man. So super impressive. Love the chance to chat with her. Yeah, excited. St. Cloud, we talked about it in the NSIC. It's man, every one of those points is going to matter the
Yeah.
standings. Maybe we'll talk about it later, unless you want to jump in now. But
Well, we're gonna. I mean, may as well. But like,
Yeah.
contrasting it with, because we'll talk about the Summit League later.
Yeah.
It is, the Summit League is it's very challenging because the balance in the bottom 2/3 is very close.
Mhm.
But 6 out of 9 teams make it. In the NSIC, 8 out of 16. Right?
Yeah.
Am I
15 this year? But
15 after upright. So just incredibly challenging. And so even St. Cloud, you can see, you'd have confidence they'd win their winnable games, but they are in a spot. They're not sitting, up top. They had to suffer through some ties. Yeah. So there are 7 rounds of games left in the NSIC, Matt. Yeah. And we have, we can just do some quick highlights of the teams that are up at the top. Bemidji State has won 4 straight after starting 2-1 to be right up in second by Mankato again. Minnesota State is undefeated, 7 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw. And then now
St. Cloud dealt them that draw.
Yes, exactly. So, but St. Cloud, like we said, they have a nice lineup coming up. They have all their teams are people who are not in playoff spaces except for Northern State.
Huge game against Northern on Sunday. Huge game.
Yep. So everything's in their hands. In terms of Concordia St. Paul, they're in 7th right now. To go through the standings: Minnesota State, Bemidji State, UMary, Northern, Augie, St. Cloud, Concordia St. Paul, and Wayne. And then the teams that are really close is Winona and actually Sioux Falls after getting a couple results.
Yep.
But honestly,
and the gap between 3rd place Mary and 8th place Wayne is 3 points.
Yes. So the tiers are really clear. So Minnesota State and Bemidji State separating themselves. Mary down through Winona is all a wash in terms of, a 5-point spread. We could see anything in terms of the last few weeks, except for probably expecting, as the last few years have had, Mankato and Bemidji being in the top part. Yeah.
Well, the only thing to watch there is that we talked about with Anna that St. Cloud has almost all their tough games except Northern on Sunday. Almost all their tougher games are in the books. Bemidji is pretty much the opposite. They still have Mary, they have Augie, they have Mankato, they have Concordia, they have Duluth. So it is, and Duluth is, by the way, Duluth is last in the standings right now, but they're, they've played a tough slate too. They have 4 points, but they're always a quality team. So, but Mary, Augie, Mankato, and Concordia, like all within the next handful of games for Bemidji. So in other words, if they come out of this and they get those results, they are also going to climb up their NCAA hopes, but that's a really tough slog. So my bet would be we see a little bit of jumbling in that top 8 because schedules are going to start to balance out for sure. Even Concordia, they host Minot and Mary. They still have Bemidji. And so they are in the hunt. They are right in the mix. And so
on the edge,
and they also get to host Minot and Mary, which is a big benefit versus making that big trip. So we'll see. I mean, the next few weeks are going to be absolutely nuts. This conference is nuts.
Yeah, I'll have a piece out later this week for the Northern Sun where I'll lay that out a little bit in terms of who has the balance of their schedule in their favor and kind of what to expect. But really fun. We did the whip around last week, which was a lot of fun to have Christy Kopitz on again. And the games, you never know what to expect, except for this year, Mankato not losing. So I guess you can, so far, they can expect that.
Well, and we talk about the NSIC standings, just a tiny little blip of Bubble Watch too. Inkblot Sports does a fantastic job of tracking D2 sports across all sports, and they just put out their first bracket. We're going to have them on for a show later this fall. But, St. Cloud, we mentioned, they're in 6th in the NSIC standings at this moment, or tied for 5th, but they're actually the only other team other than Mankato who's in this first predicted bracket, and it's because of their strength of non-conference. And so
they played their entire
Well, and they've gotten enough results. Their point total isn't that high because they've gotten a lot of ties, but they've tied really good teams, and then their non-conference results were strong enough that they're actually, predicted to be in the NCAAs. Again, at this moment, grain of salt, yada yada. But they're actually the only other NSIC team predicted to make it. We've had teams where three or three-ish teams make it. This year could be leaner. We don't know. But just letting folks know that sort of early bubble watch for the national tournament.
Yeah. Well, and if I had to pick, if I was a coach, I would pick to have had their schedule. I would pick to play the tougher half, have some momentum, go into the conference. And if you get some results in the conference tournament, fine. If not, then hopefully you've done enough. So I'd pick it that way if I were them. But yeah, even in favor of a balanced one. But yeah, let's switch to D1 talk, Matt. Get a little bit of Gophs. This is, I keep, even for people's reference, I keep saying to Matt, God, they're like so much better than they've ever been. And Matt's like, well, they haven't been as bad. They're just they are better. They are the best they've been in equal time era, right? I mean, and they are. I mean, the 2018, technicality, but like in the last 5 years, we haven't seen anything like this. They're getting huge wins. I'm hyped. We're putting on at the bar. The Gophers are getting coverage in the Star Tribune, right? They're getting some mainstream coverage. Talk about recent results, because last weekend, biggest win in a while? Yeah. Ohio State was number 8, right?
Yeah, so if folks are sort of comparing the equal time levels of hype, when they go to LA and get a tie against USC, that's such a huge result because a tie is worth half a win. So, in terms of why it matters on RPI, a tie is big, then getting it on the road is bonus points. Getting it on the road against like a top team is bonus points. So we talked about the USC tie as being such a big deal of, oh my God, I was
hype on that.
What an RPI boost. Well, the Ohio State win is like that on steroids because it's a win. So it's even bonus points on top of that, being a top 10 RPI team, blah, blah, blah. And so just a huge, huge result. I also think on the weekend, they end up losing against Penn State. The only heartbreaking part of that is they were tied decently well into the second half.
Yeah, they were in it. But yeah.
And so it's a little heartbreaking because a road tie to follow that up would have been sort of next level, like really, really vaulted them up. But still, I think the positive to take away both from the Penn State game and Ohio State is just that, to use the LA trip as an example, when you watch the USC game and then the UCLA game, it didn't look like the same team in both games. They played insanely confident. I mean, they were still in the UCLA game, but they played so well against USC, so confident. They were like willing to play, take risks. They were attacking. They were being aggressive. Yes, the other team might have been possessing more, but like the U looked confident. They looked good. It looked like they were doing what they wanted to do. And I think the difference in this weird Ohio-Pennsylvania trip is they looked that way in both games. So even though they lose the Penn State game, I thought they still looked like they were playing the way they wanted to play. So even though you drop points, and against UCLA you drop points, I think this game is a much better signal about how they're looking this late in the season. And now we come home and they play Maryland on Thursday, which again, on paper, should be a game they can take. You can't really take anything for granted. Maryland just beat Nebraska, so they are capable of pressuring them. But Indiana on Sunday. And so this weekend, they really should be able to lock in their positions in terms of the postseason.
Points weekend. Yeah. I mean, and I will say, because when you're seeing, I joked a little, but I mean, the difference in like confidence, like you're seeing a team, like you said, when you watch games, even when they're down, they're never out. So credit to, Aaron Chastain and the coaching staff. And then also, of course, the mix of players who are building this culture, because it's so fun to watch this team get these results, and credit to them, because they've had, some years where they didn't get postseason opportunity. This year, looking a lot more likely. Maybe all, but you don't want to say it. The coaches wouldn't. But talk about that in terms of looking at NCAA tournament, something we haven't seen in a few years from the Gophers. How are you feeling about that? Where do they stand?
Yeah, so in two different levels, basically the Gophers have to be, well, they might not be thinking of it this way. I'm thinking about it in two different levels. So the Big Ten tournament field is actually incredibly competitive still. So down Minnesota, all this hype we're talking about, how well they've looked, and it's all legitimately true. They're still in 10th in the Big Ten standings.
Oh yeah, they got to finish this out.
And 10 teams make the Big Ten tournament. So they have a little bit of a cushion because they're 4 points ahead of Illinois, who they beat on the road earlier this year. And then Illinois had a good bounce back and got a few good results. So essentially this, like tonight, tomorrow night, Thursday night, is going to be a big determinant. So, for example, in the standings, Minnesota is a point behind Wisconsin. So Wisconsin has 12 points, Minnesota has 11. Tonight, Wisconsin plays Michigan State. So tomorrow night, excuse me. So Wisconsin plays Michigan State. That's a huge game to track. Purdue plays Rutgers. That's another big one to track. And Indiana plays Illinois. And that matters because Wisconsin is 9, Minnesota is 10. Illinois and Purdue are just behind them at 11 and 12. If Illinois and Purdue both lose and Minnesota is able to win, I think I could triple check the math. I believe that would mean they're locked into the Big Ten tournament. And that's just a big deal because it hasn't been announced yet, but it has been reported elsewhere. We can confirm that reporting that the Big Ten tournament's going to be in Minnesota. We've said it multiple times. So it would just
the
be
first rounds, right?
First rounds of the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
And so it just would be a huge marker for this program to get back into the Big Ten tournament, but also to be back in when they're hosting as a neutral site host. But still, you would get to basically be the host team. So that's a big one. And so if they are able to beat Maryland on Thursday and a few of those games flip the right way, they might have sort of a clinching moment. I'll triple check the math on that before tomorrow. And then the other thing to watch is they've been doing so well that they might actually be sort of already comfortably considered an at-large NCAA team. So they're at 37 in the RPI. That win at Ohio State bumped them up like 15 spots single-handedly. And so they really should, I think, be considered a lock at this point. I'm not enough of a nerd.
It's so wild with them being in 10th, right?
It's not that wild when you consider last year, before you add in the LA schools, Michigan missed the NCAAs or missed the Big Ten and made the NCAAs. So it's possible just because of the way the non-conference schedules can bend.
And the strength of the programs.
The Big Ten.
The RPI clearly, because that's wild. Yeah.
And so for the NCAAs, the things if you're tracking this as a fan, the thing to track is if Minnesota can finish strong enough, they should theoretically be a first round host. So the way the NCAA tournament works in D1, different from D2, is that essentially the first game is treated separately from the second and third game. So if you think of it in rounds, the first round is its own thing. And so the top seeded team hosts whatever non-seeded team. It might be close to us. It might not, because Wisconsin and Iowa both are pretty much locked into the tournament as well. Yeah. And so let's say South Dakota State wins a Summit League or UNI wins Ohio, whatever, Missouri, they might get sent to these other schools. So either way, Minnesota for the first round, if they do well this weekend, should be able to host at least that first game. Then almost certainly from there, they'll be sent somewhere. So second and third rounds.
Man. If they're in the tournament, who cares if they host? I mean, it's amazing, but I'm just saying.
Only saying it because if you host that first round game, that would be the first time in a really long time that they host an NCAA tournament game. So we'll be watching for that. It should be really exciting. So Thursday against Maryland, they should be able to lock that in. If they play well, it could be a multi-goal margin, but again, you have to actually go out there and play. And then Indiana will be a slog. They are a really tight defensive unit, and so that one could be a really tough test just because Minnesota's been playing in these more open games. And so Indiana might be a little more sort of stay behind the ball. They like to possess and all that, but they do have really good defensive discipline. So Sunday should be a huge test. Oh, and that one's on Big Ten. I don't know if I've mentioned that. So Indiana is on cable, so I won't be broadcasting that one. So that one will be on Big BTN.
Indiana is on Big?
Yep, on Sunday.
Cool. Right on. Cool. Well, we'll toss it on at the bar. Shout out, by the way, speaking of the next prompt, shout out to the Gopher Athletic Department for making a cool hype video where they mirrored, and I don't know about hockey, but a hockey player who scores a lot, and Kaya Harper, who we care about because we're on a soccer outlet, and they both were scoring goals and celebrating doing the arrow pull.
Yeah.
I was hyped. But great. Kaya is still banging in goals. I'm sure approaching record setting. I don't know, but I haven't looked up the Gopher single season, but I'll look it up. She's rolling. She's rolling. But also, obviously other players doing really well too. So shout out to Kaya Harper as always. And we have a ton of goal scorers we hype out a lot, but who else on the Gophers when you've been watching these games, do you maybe want to give some other shine to, aside from the easy goal hype from Kaya?
Yeah, I think if one way I would frame this is like if we're trying to predict who will actually get Big Ten honors, that's the way
that'd be a better prompt. Yeah.
That's the way I'm going to think of it, because honestly, there are players who I rate really highly who are just never going to get the credit they deserve. Like, you know, Sophia Romine and Kate Childers are never going to get the awards they deserve. It's just the nature of, you know, whatever. Yeah. So this year, I mean, obviously Kaya will get all of it. I mean, being the leading scorer in the country, she's going to get, you know, I would be shocked if it's not, you know, every single award. Outside of that, Paige Kala has quietly, except for me, been like in the national assist board. She's third in the country in assists. Third. Amazing. Like give me a break. Her set piece service has been a huge part of what's keeping Gophers in these games and helping them win these games. It would surprise me if Sophia Bowman isn't somewhere on there. She got shifted to holding mid, and so her stats aren't going to shine as much this year, but she's been such a steadying presence at the 6. And she's just a known entity. Like, these teams know her quality. So I would assume Paige Kala gets somewhere on there. I would assume Sophia Bowman is somewhere on there. Elizabeth Overberg has been really, really good in the back. I would hope she gets something. Again, the Big Ten awards are going to be kind of nuts this year with the new teams. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of these players I'm naming might still get snubbed, honestly. Like, I have no idea.
Who knows? Yeah.
But and then also, I think we should get some all freshmen. Like, if Ashley Turk, as a from day one 90-minute right back, isn't on the all freshman team, I probably will riot somewhere. And then Caroline Birdsell started the season off with that brace and then hasn't been like exploding statistically, but has been so good just as an every down starter for the team. I would hope she gets an all freshman nod, just because she's been so many minutes, like so dangerous, like high work rate, high tools, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then I could be wrong. I guess I need to triple check this. I think Sarah Martin didn't redshirt, and so she is a sophomore. Otherwise,
she's a sophomore,
yeah, which is
high class. But
now this is her first year like starting. So if she had redshirted and was a freshman or whatever, and I'm gonna mix up the details, so apologies, Sarah, but you've been crushing it. But for a first year start, like if this were a first year team or whatever, a newcomer team, I would hope she would get that recognition. She at least deserves recognition for what she's done. But I mean, this has been a really, really strong team. Honestly, even like Evelyn Calhoun has been so good in the midfield. I mean, Big Ten is going to be incredibly competitive. I have no idea how they're going to make these teams. But it's been really great all around. And to be honest with you, even more freshmen have come in and shown really good potential. But just the way the awards work, you're just never going to see that happen.
No, we try to spread it around as best we can. But yeah, of course, hey, players, if you got 4 years, then hopefully sometime when you're showing out, we get your name on here. But it is difficult. Yeah. Should we shift in? You want to ask me about a little bit of the Summit League, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it. I know it's incredibly tight up top. What's the Summit League looking like for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, most notable to me, and part of it is a bit of the scheduling pattern that we talk about, but North Dakota State is tied for first, with 3 other teams, but it's South Dakota State, Omaha, and Denver. North Dakota State all have 10 points. And then actually South Dakota State has no losses. So they're actually the only undefeated team left in the conference.
And they have the game in hand.
They have a game in hand. So South Dakota State looking great. Denver coming a little bit back into form. But like we said, it's kind of about who you're playing. This week is Dakota week. We hyped it last week about these matchups, but South Dakota hosts North Dakota 3 p.m. Tomorrow. North Dakota State hosts South Dakota State 6 p.m. And then on Sunday, they swap, and UND hosts South Dakota State, NDSU hosts South Dakota, all those on the Midco network. But those Dakota schools are all in play. North Dakota has work to do if they want to make the playoffs. But as of now, the other 3 would all be in. Like we said earlier, Summit League a bit more forgiving in the sense of 6 out of 9 teams making it. It doesn't mean you're going to get a result when you make it, but regardless,
yeah. Well, and it's Dakota week. It's also top 4 week because everyone in the top 4 plays each other. Omaha at Denver. on.
Yes.
Oh, actually, tomorrow night is top 4 night. So,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, SDSU at NDSU, and then Omaha at Denver. So all of the top 4 that could, you know, points are going somewhere. It's going to jostle, and then yeah, man, the bottom of that tournament field is nuts. You think Oral Roberts? So all those teams at 10, and then Oral Roberts at 7 points, South Dakota at 5, Kansas City at 3, North Dakota at 2, St. Thomas at 1. You think Oral Roberts probably has enough, but Kansas City and UND coming down to the wire.
Only
Dakota.
4 games left. So next week when we do the D1 roundup, we'll definitely have a section talking about the Summit playoffs, because we'll have a decent idea after this weekend's round, because there's only 2 games left for most of the teams after that. So yeah, gonna be wild. And I mean, the biggest thing for the Summit League, it's more a question of, can 2 teams make it? Usually not. I mean,
not this year, but I think
they'd have to win everything out. It's just not enough.
Well, what would have to happen for the Summit League to have 2 teams bid in is, well, first of all, everyone would have to perform very well in non-conference, but also schedule pretty difficult in non-conference.
Yeah.
And then you'd basically have to, 2 teams would have to go absolutely wild, like truly undefeated through non-conference or something. But it's really, really competitive. St. Thomas down there with only 1 conference point is, they've
had really tough losses. It's like they're in games, it feels like, right? But it's
and you're still seeing moments from players. They're still tweaking things around. Like Sophia England playing an outside back. You have the change at keeper. You have like other players getting out there, like Annie Mulcahy, who's a St. Paul kid, so we'll for sure try and have Annie on at some point. You're seeing people mix in, and you're seeing players mix in. I'm an annoying broken record on this. I think the player talent is there. Like, I think the roster is there. They're like, that roster is a competitive Summit League team, and it just hasn't been able to come together, so and it hasn't really progressed either in like the time we've been covering them. So that's been the tough part, because I really do think all the way, and shout out to that senior class. I don't know if we do it enough. That first senior class of D1 for St. Thomas is graduating this fall. 13 players, like a ton of Minnesota, like talent coming in the door, helping start that program. Can't say enough what it means for them to give 4 years to sort of jumpstart this program
with no postseason reward,
with no possibility of even playing in the Summit League tournament. And so huge shout out to them. A bunch of them haven't been able to play this year just because it's a crowded rotation. I'll do a piece like sort of shouting each of them out individually, but like every one of these players, even if they haven't been big time contributors, is a really quality player. And I've seen it when I've gone to training. I've seen it when they're able to get into games. And so we talk about how hard it is to be like a college soccer player in general. Talk about like having to like enter this program into the D1 era is even more on top of that. And they deserve a lot of credit for what they've done, and they've invested so much, and it hasn't always been easy. So shout out to them.
And this year they're having to play in the shadow of construction. I mean, honestly, not even joking, like playing soccer games with that. It's not like it's crazy noise. They're constructing the arena, but like, they're just, everything's, now they're throwing a curveball. But yeah, for the Tommies this weekend, they host Kansas City on Sunday at 1 p.m. If you want to get out over to down southwest where I am right now at the bar. And then next week they are in North Dakota, and they are at North Dakota State. So they do the North Dakota trip. But yeah, shout out to them. Hopefully they can get a couple more points this weekend just to kind of build into next year. But yeah, obviously for people who are local, easy game to go to on Sunday, especially 1 p.m. I love it. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah,
awesome. Glad we got to talk to Anna. Matt, do you have anything else you want to?
Oh no, shout out to Pentz Homes. You've been seeing them on the screen. They're the reason we're able to do all this coverage, all this in-depth tracking and analysis we do. I'm sitting in a Pentz home right now. If you need help buying, selling, remodeling, refinancing, any of that stuff, if you're Anna's family down in the Des Moines area, they can help you down there. They can do referrals. Anything is possible. And if you want to support our work, you can always do it as little as $2 a month at patreon.com/equaltimesoccer. If you want to do a one-time thing, you can just like DM us and send us a fruit basket or something.
Venmo. Also, we don't say it enough. Subscribe on YouTube, because YouTube is the place you can watch all these back. If you just have a player you like, see if we ever did a show with them. We got to count, or we might be over 100 or something.
Oh yeah.
So it might be over 200 then. But no, we have YouTube has all of our Matt segments out, the player sections of when we do these shows, which is my favorite part. So go back, check it out. We have everything there. Thank you to all the supporters. We'll see you at the bar to watch soccer Sunday afternoon.
Thanks so much, guys.